Well, then I'm going to, I have one more thing to say to introduce you and why I wanted to do this session today. So this was really important to me. In January, I looked down at all the medications I was taking, pharma medications. I had five medications I was taking every day at 39 years old. And I thought, I don't want to keep living like this. Now, did some of those keep me alive? Yes, absolutely, and I'm so thankful for them. But now that I'm stable-ish, I really want to try a more holistic and natural route and get to the root cause of what my problems are. Pharma meds, while great, they solve the symptoms, hopefully. And so this has been my journey over the past 5 years since it started. I've had 6 different doctors. I've had 13 different medications. I've had 46 medication changes among all of those. And in 2023 alone, I had 23 changes. It's amazing I'm still here. And then 55, we've spent over $55,000 of our own money out of pocket, including insurance, to pay for all of this. Also, I have an asterisk next to the doctors. I think we hear this a lot, but please do it. Don't just pick any doctor. Don't just, take what they say and as, okay, yes, I'm going to go through with it. When I was going through my medications and all my pharma claims, and I'm listing them out, okay, fine, I see all the meds I'm taking, and then I'm like, okay, I had this doctor at this time, this doctor at this time, and I also saved some of my pills, and so I went back to look at some of them, and I found a doctor that prescribed me mental health meds that was not on my claims. It was not in my pharma, report. So, what happened to that doctor? Are they hiding him? That's very weird. So, and that whole situation was weird. And I had 4 doctors in a year, thanks to Cerebral.com. So, just be careful who you go with. So this is what I mentioned. This is where I am today. These are all my medications. And this is where I want to be with Valentina. So the symptoms, just about everything. Sadness, I've spent a lot of my time crying. Anger and irritability, stress, anxiety, mood swings, meltdowns, where I am like a 3-year-old slamming doors, screaming at the top of my lungs and want to run away. I feel emotionally flat, fatigued. Sometimes I feel like I have all this energy, but I'm so tired at the same time. Brain fog, memory loss. Someone would tell me something, and a second later, I have no idea what they said. And I could listen over and over, and I still don't know. Lack of interest, motivation. My face was breaking out really bad. I had weight gain because of some of the meds I was on, and sugar cravings, which I've never had in my life, and bloating. So that's where Valentina comes in. So I did a hair tissue mineral analysis with her. And this is where she's going to talk all about the fun science. And basically what we looked at were my minerals and metals to see where the imbalances were, where there was any toxicity. And it was amazing, the results that came back. Funny enough, it also gives you your psychological patterns just from looking at these different things. And mine was, this pattern is associated with defensiveness or stubbornness, as in digging in one's heels. This is a double defensiveness pattern. The high calcium magnesium is associated with defending one's position. The elevated something and sodium potassium indicates a tendency for anger, assertiveness, or willfulness. None of that has to do with me being an only child.
But you thought it did.
At the beginning, I thought it did.
Yeah.
But it's not that big.
Yeah. That's good news, right?
Yeah. It's great, she can change.
Yeah.
All right. After all that, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, great. And we're going to come back to all that. I want you guys to have a little backstory on what it is. I'll put it all together at the end. Can you put my slides up? Thanks, girl.
But you look so pretty.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. They might want to. Some of these slides are a little information heavy. When we talked about what to share, we could both just dive right in. I'm like, I don't want to lose you guys and be like, huh? Because, even if it's about you, it sometimes can feel like a lot of information, and people are just like, A, tell me what that means, and B, just tell me how to fix it, you know? So I want you guys to have a better understanding.
I don't know how to make it big.
Okay. So yeah, just have more of an understanding here of, you know, what this means. Okay. Yay. I did not find full screen. Sorry guys. Tech issues today, huh?
All of you. Well, we can see it.
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay, good enough. Okay, great. Just not sure why it's not going full screen. Okay, well, it should. All right, we'll move on. That's fine. Okay, guys, just imagine it's nice and pretty and full screen. So, all right, as you guys have heard, I'm Valentina, and I'm very grateful to be here today because it is a dream come true for me to have people that want to hear about the stuff that I love to research about nonstop, and really this changed my life. So I want to start by asking you guys a question. Who here would like to feel, you guys can actually interact if you want, more productive, more mental clarity, more energy level, higher energy? Do you guys relate to that? Okay, cool. I was thinking that. That's kind of normally how people feel. Who here uses caffeine, supplements, medications to try to make that happen every day? Okay, cool. All of us feel that way. So,
I don't know. I want to know what she does.
okay.
Actually, so I'm very against medications. I think it's a snowball effect. So I think when you start one medication, you're going to have a side effect, and then you're going to be prescribed something else. I went through a lot of fertility treatments and stuff like that. So that's kind of where like my mindset of everything came from. And so ever since then, I don't do like any medications or anything. I'll do like coffee maybe twice a week. And
Wow.
that's kind of it.
So I love that.
Impressive.
I'm sorry to hear that you had a fertility journey, but isn't that the beauty of struggle, is it helps us understand how to become more aware of what our bodies need and how to get to know ourselves and what's going to work for us versus like what everyone else is doing as norm. I had a concussion that led me to stopping to drink caffeine. Like, you just never know what negative thing could happen that's like, oh, hang on, this is not, I usually don't have this level of anxiety when I don't have caffeine, but I wouldn't have known if I wouldn't have had a reason to stop. And now I can pull that lever when I want. I'm having a little today, so I show up with a little higher energy, which is like, ooh, that's fun. So that's great that you have come to that. So what I would love to say, do you use supplements?
So here and there, it really depends. My
Okay.
body will react really crazy to some supplements.
Okay.
So like zinc, I can't do zinc. Even like if I do an IV, my body reacts crazy to it.
Yep.
So here and there, I'll do like my vitamin D and C, but beyond
Yeah.
that, nothing more.
You are just bringing me to so many points. I love that because you know what? If any of you take magnesium or zinc, like these minerals alone have so many studies associated with the great things that they can do. But when they're out of balance with the other minerals, the body can't make use of them. So we are sold supplements if they're high enough quality and not like full of other things that we don't want, and our body's able to process them. Is it going to be what our body needs, the right amount, and usable, like something that our body can actually make use of? So let's dive into all this. Today we're going to be talking about how minerals specifically, which are, well, we're going to go into it in a minute, are going to impact us as entrepreneurs, okay? How do I work this thing?
You hit the arrow.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay, there's no arrow on there.
I know.
I'm like, okay. So a little bit about me. It's maybe hard to see, but I am, first of all, mom of 4. My babies are all big, literally all taller than me now. I am also an entrepreneur. I, within 4 years, opened and ran 4 different businesses. That was quite a feat. And I am also a certified epigenetic coach and somatic therapist. I started on this journey really from the time I was born. I was telling, it's Amy, right?
Yes.
Okay, I was telling Amy, because we thought this was going to be a one-on-one combo for a little bit there. I was like, hey girl, but we'll keep it that way. That my birth was actually triggered by my mom getting into a car accident. So I didn't realize, and so much of why HTMA was formed was hair tissue mineral analysis that we're about to get into, which is how we test our minerals, was to try to understand the link between the minerals, our nervous system, and all the other processes in the body. Well, so there we have it. The nervous system is a huge component. Well, my nervous system got a little bit of a shock entrance into reality here, and I found that I could not digest anything for the whole first part of my life. I literally had to take baths as a kid to not have pain from digestion. Like I would eat and I would hate to eat, and then I would have to take a bath because it would be so painful. And that led to malnourishment, that led to mental health issues like ADD, reading disabilities, horrible anxiety. And then by the time I was 17, I was medicated for my thyroid was overactive, then it swung down to so underactive that I had chronic fatigue and didn't know how to get out of bed anymore. It was like quite a roller coaster in those early days. So I just kept thinking, every doctor, they don't have the answers for me. They just want to give me another medication. And that's not to say that there's a problem with doctors. There are so many great things that come from those medications that we oftentimes need to help us survive, to help us get out of such the hole that we found ourselves in. But it started making me ask questions. And when I was 17, I started working at a gym, and I saw people walk in one way. And a few months later, I'm watching them literally because I was checking them in. I was this little girl that knew nothing about health. Watching them, because sugar was my main food group, let's be real. Seriously. Watching them walk out, different people. And I'm like, wait a minute, what's happening? So I started opening my mind to, okay, when we move our bodies, we feel different, but also like, these people that we're coaching, these other people that we're transforming, we're telling them how to eat different. And I started doing it myself, and I was like, whoa. So I took myself off of my ADD medication that I had been on for 15 years. And I started realizing that I felt totally different and could actually focus when I ate real food. Imagine that, right? So it was this very young me that started putting these pieces together. And I told my parents I was going to become a somatic therapist, and they're like, we don't know what that is. No one knew what that was 20 years ago.
I bet most people don't know now.
Yeah, it's a therapy where you're integrating mind body. So the body holds so much of the memories. So we're releasing the story that is held in the body through different therapies. So I started understanding, wait a minute, so nutrition and how we move our body, and now we've got emotions and we've got the nervous system, and my mind just was blown. And it has literally been blown every year for over 20 years now. Like ever since I realized this, because I was like, why is the food pyramid like this? And why is this test not one that every doctor is talking about, since it's been around since the 70s and 80s? You know, I had never even heard of it till a few years back. Yeah, so anyways, that's how I became a health pioneer, because it changed my life. And then my kids, because health problems run through families, right? They all were born with a slew of health problems, and it was like a puzzle to try to figure this out, and they're all great. And we still figure things out as we go, because let's face it, we live in a world full of toxins and stress, and so that's a trigger, right? But yeah, I really love helping you transform, you know, from whatever. I see your problems and your symptoms as a puzzle that we can figure out together. So that is how I come here today, to help you guys kind of see this. So let's dive into it. But before we begin, I want you guys to know, medical disclaimer, I am not a doctor, and I do not know your whole health history. So everything I say here today is going to be, you know, case study. We're talking in theory. I love what you said about doctors. You are in charge of the team of health professionals that help you navigate your body. Your body is the only body you get. So I empower all of you to take this information and go and talk to your team of doctors. And I'm also happy to be on that team to help you navigate. But I did want to make you aware. Okay, so let's talk about...
Dr. Smarty Pants.
What's that?
Dr. Smarty Pants.
Well, you think so. I feel like the more we know, the more we realize we don't know. So that's how I see this all. So let's talk talk about what minerals even are. They are the spark plugs of like most of the processes in our bodies. Think about it as the brain's Wi-Fi. They're in charge of all the signaling that's happening in the body. And when we don't have the energy for that signaling to run smoothly, then things are just going to be totally offline. Not only that, okay, good, we're good. Not only that, but heavy metals. Pretty much all of our food, soil, if we process foods, it's really high. Our food, our soil, like everything that we do, even the air we breathe, the water we drink, can have small amounts. The dental work we've had can have small amounts of heavy metals. And the problem there is heavy metals block the binder sites where the minerals actually need to go so they can actually do their job in the body. So heavy metals are totally working against us at this point, and there's a lot we can do about that. It's not a hopeless case, but it's good to know that these are the two things that we're mainly going to be talking about today.
Real quick, if you have questions, comments, just raise your hand, interact. It's a small group. I mean, that would make it even more fun.
Totally. Yeah. All right, so here's some stats for you. This is estimated, right? Estimated 90% of Americans are mineral deficient. So that's huge because, again, why is this test that we're talking about not one that we're all aware of and doing? But then 10 times more than that 90% number, people are subclinical, so we can't even diagnose them as mineral deficient, but they probably are because it's not showing up. So
showing up where? In blood tests?
In blood tests, yeah. This is mostly blood tests, but because on a hair test, I'm going to tell you guys this is not a diagnostic test. So it's really to give you a view of what's happening and how the body is processing. We'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, these stats are from blood tests.
Okay.
So yeah, let's talk about this a little bit more. How are we so depleted, right? So as I just mentioned a few minutes ago, we've got all of these things and more. So the food we eat, the water we drink, the world we live in is not only because of how we are farming, which is great for our economy, but it's not so great for our bodies because we're not using the soil in a way that our wise ancestors were turning the soil and growing different things in a way that we have a rich microbiome. So we don't get what we need to make our bodies thrive. And these are some signs here of things that you can know. There's so much more, but these are some high-level signs. So if you're feeling, like Tina was saying, fatigue, low energy, if you're having hair loss, brain fog, now this is kind of like the COVID signs. You could really just do a mile-long list, and mineral depletion is very similar in that everything kind of falls into that, but these are some of the top recognized, if you're having low energy, that's a huge one because our cells need that mineral balance in order to have energy and to feel energized. And we have a little quote here. Dr. Pauling says, "You can trace every sickness, every disease, and every ailment to a mineral deficiency." And I truly believe that. I think that it begins on a cellular level, foundationally, when our body doesn't have what it needs to do its job properly. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about this. Low magnesium alone risk by 64%. That's quite a huge number. And we know that, so there's actually a lot of people that I see post and talk about this, like if we have so many studies about magnesium. The problem is there's so many forms of magnesium. The other problem is 80% of Americans have leaky guts. So if we're taking magnesium and our bodies can't absorb it properly, or it's not the right form, or it's triggering our gut like that Calm does for a lot of people, it triggers the gut to release. So, it's hard to get enough without you having to run to the bathroom all the time. There are many other forms, but that's just one example. Our zinc to copper ratio, those imbalances triple anxiety risk. Yeah, case in point here. And what can that do in the body? It can compromise our decision making, reduce our mental clarity and focus, and increase stress and burnout. Pretty sure we all raised our hands at the beginning that we're experiencing pretty much all of these things. So at the end of the day, this is where we say there's a lot that we can do to feel better than we feel now. And the great thing, and I'll talk about this more, is that mineral balancing is not just here's a pill, on you go. This is helping the body have a foundational safeness so that it can release heavy metals, it can properly start to do all of its jobs. So it's going to begin to heal itself when we give itself the tools and the resources that it needs. And signal safety in the nervous system, which is huge for feeling a different way. All right. So how does that impact entrepreneurs? All right, so we have first stress, right? We get triggered with stress. That's going to deplete our minerals that are going to be critical in us doing the things that we need to do every day to succeed. And then our HPA center, that's our hypothalamus glands, our pituitary glands, our adrenal glands, that's our stress response center. And in fact, once we reach midlife and beyond, that is what is going to dictate so much of our hormone health, because we no longer are getting triggered from our ovaries to say, hey, this is how many hormones, and I know there's like over 50 hormones, right? But so it's more than just our baby making hormones. However, our stress response center all of a sudden becomes even more critical. And that's why women in midlife are like, what has happened to my body? Because our cortisol levels are playing a huge role there. And anxiety in business can really just be this constant burnout, fatigue cycle from that point as well. And that is going to impact our nervous system, which is going to impact our ability to be creative, because when we are in that fight or flight zone, which we're going to talk about here in a minute, we are certainly not trying to create and problem solve. We are going to be in a survival mode, and we don't even have access to that part of our brain anymore. So that's where that really comes in. We're going to talk here about the polyvagal theory. Yeah.
Back to the middle one, the HPA axis.
Yes.
What about men?
Same. So theirs is going to be impacted by this their whole life.
Okay.
Yeah, all of your stress response center is going to, because they're obviously, so ours changes throughout our cycle based on where we are in our cycle, based on where we are in our baby making years, because the priority, as long as you're not in fight or flight in your parasympathetic state, you're going to actually prioritize baby making over survival.
Oh.
But then when you go into fight or flight mode, you're going to not be so worried about digestion, creativity, baby making, nurturing. You're not going to be focused on any of that. Your brain is just, it's not that you're going to necessarily, especially when we're talking about chronic, it's not that you're going to necessarily feel this difference, it's just that's your norm. And I think that's much of what we're living in now, is like our norm is because we're under constant stress of some sort, just because our lives are so fast and we're constantly keeping our brains busy. And let's not even get started on these lights, you guys, and the artificial light at night and how that's impacting our sleep pattern, and how can we have healthy hormones if we don't have healthy sleep. Like, it's a whole thing. But we're going to start here today. Okay, so this is going to be a chart on your nervous system. This is the polyvagal chart. This is really easy to see.
Is anybody familiar with this?
Okay.
This was mind-blowing when I learned it. It
I wish you could see
everything about your system and how you operate as a human. It was so interesting.
Yeah.
One of my favorites.
I mean, I wish you could see it better. So I love, and you want to function in that green zone. That's the social engagement zone. You're going to zoom it in. But when we are in that, I'm trying to zoom it in on mine too. Oh, but that's not going to help. When we are in that, oh, good. There you go. That freeze state. Look at what happens in the body. You go into food storage mode. You go into conserve. This is why we put on weight when we're stressed, right? It's like literally the body says, let's conserve because we are in danger. Here, even in the sympathetic, in the fight or flight, even if you're not up in that, constant state of intense, freeze state up there, you're still going to have so many other issues that can get triggered, from digestion, immune problems. You can see what happens. The heart rate changes, the blood pressure changes. So all of these feelings over here our kind of the emotional journey that happens. So we want to feel calm, grounded, and settled in. But obviously this is what can happen. Just what were you going to say?
For me, in the past couple of years, I've basically lived in fight or flight. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of my symptoms were sadness, anger, irritability, and so that's what the fight side is. And then the flight, panic, fear, again, anxiety, worry, concern. My flight, I would literally try and run away. And so that's really where I've been living. And so when I saw this, I was like, oh my gosh, that really explains it.
Yeah.
And now, as you'll see in my results, I'm really in that freeze stage, the parasympathetic nervous system. So shutting down, hopelessness, depression, numbness, disassociation.
So many of us, even when we think we're doing well, are in that yellow state. But we don't even know. It actually, our nervous system has a thermometer. So if you grew up in a home where yelling was normal, as an example, your body, when it's quiet, is gonna, even though on paper we would consider that healthier, safer, your body's gonna be like, something's wrong. It's not, somebody's not yelling. Like, our bodies actually regulate into not even a healthy state. Our bodies are going to try to make whatever our normal is the normal. And when we get healthier on paper, it can feel dangerous. It can feel like a threat. Yeah, so we have to start training ourselves to feel safe, to feel our emotions, to have time to slow down. And I'm a big proponent of creating time in your calendar, even if it's just 10 minutes. Preferably while you're getting that early morning sun for your hormones. But yeah, to just slow down enough that you can be with yourself and not just be in that go, go, go mode. Yeah, please.
So I'm feeling very emotional about this because we don't talk about this.
Yeah, right.
No,
Move
go
the
for it.
microphone.
But I have been on this journey for a few years, and I just started working with a nurse practitioner who is incredible. And I felt a lot of shame. We did a blood test, and my cortisol levels are just off the chart. And I'm doing all the right things. I'm exercising. I'm living the way that I want to live. And what I realized is that I was caught in my childhood. And just talking about this and seeing it and having a room of people who are here to bring this to light is so important, because we have to remove the shame around this work or we can't get out of it. And having the knowledge, so taking the test, whatever it is that you are doing, to just understand your body, it's how we change the world. Because when we do this work to feel safe, especially as entrepreneurs, that is when we can create the solutions to whatever we're building that have the biggest impact. And so I want to say thank you so much for this conversation. And we just have to keep talking about it. But it's the safety. It's feeling safe to be ourselves. And when we reach that point, that's when the magic happens.
I love that.
Very
I'm
well
so
said.
glad you just got that on.
I was just going to say, I'm glad I gave you the mic.
That was so good.
I'm crazy to believe that all of that starts in our guts.
Yes, it does.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, all those neurotransmitters are created right there in the gut. Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a minute. So thank you.
Yeah.
That was beautiful. And it is a journey, and that's what I want people to understand. Like Tina got up here and was like, well, today's not going great or whatever. Like, it's okay to feel that way. And I just did a class yesterday on teaching women how the moon impacts our hormones. It was so good. And how to understand your cycle, and if you're not cycling anymore, how to understand how the moon impacts that, because our emotional journey and the gravitational pull on the moon and the fluids in our body is going to make it, we're not men. We're not gonna feel the same emotions and hormones every 24 hours, and our world is set up to tell us that we will. And we're not here to do that. We have other gifts. So being in that space and understanding how our bodies function, like, why are they not teaching that to us in school? Like, we need a class.
The answer is the patriarchy.
Yeah,
They don't want us to have this power.
Right.
They don't want us. They took the 13th month away to
She knows.
yeah,
She knows all the things.
Yeah.
Yes, it's true. Yes, the world was set up in a way that not only understood women, but also, it also exonerated the power and the gifts that we actually hold, instead of making it, That's a problem. You need to be more like you're not, you know? And so, you know, and I don't think the men here today are here to do that. It's just that we've gotten so far away from understanding how the body works. And if you go to a doctor and say, I have all these perimenopause symptoms, that's why I'm so passionate about hormone health, they don't have the research to tell you what to do about it. It's not that they don't want to, it's they're not taught. Most of them have just a couple hours, 2 hours exactly, in school and their whole education, and then they're the expert that we're going to. Yeah.
That's crazy.
So if you do more than 2 hours of research, you may very well know more than someone that you're going to, which is hard to wrap your mind around. But there's so many wonderful resources, and I do think we're changing this. There's a movement coming. Yes. So empowering ourselves to understand our bodies is what's happening. It's where we're at. It's what's happening. Just claiming that too.
So I just want to do a quick check on time. It's 10:34. What time do most of you have till? I know we started like 11:15. You have till 11 or so? Okay, great.
This is not going now.
Of course it's not.
There it is.
Oh, okay. Did I miss one? Nope. Okay. Okay. So, oh, it's zoomed out in though. Let's see. There we go. Okay. It's hard to read, but I'll tell you guys. So, what are minerals anyways? So, as we talked about, they're the spark plugs for all these processes in the body. They also come in the macro form, are calcium, sodium, potassium, magnesium, which you guys have probably all heard of. And then the trace minerals over here, iron, zinc, copper, manganese, selenium, iodine. These are all critical for our thyroid, everything down here, okay, the roles of these minerals. So we've got energy production, blood sugar regulation, I'm reading them because I don't know if you can see them, food regulation, transporting nutrients across cell membranes, hormone production, bone building, immune system support. What is that one? Oh, contracting and relaxing muscles, stress tolerance, and cognitive function. So these are just a few, again, very long list that we could put here, but these are just a few just to help you understand what minerals are doing in the body. And here's how we can test those, okay? So this is a test that will allow us, now mine's not working, it's so funny. Okay, there we go. This is a test that is going to test not only your minerals, but also your heavy metals. And how are we doing this? Through hair. So the hair is the easiest way to biopsy the tissue of the body. We don't have to cut skin out. We actually can see how the body is processing, storing, and utilizing the minerals that are running through our bodies, as well as the heavy metals. And it's kind of an interesting test because we can see all of the different ratios from the calcium, potassium, to the zinc, copper, and you can see that it's going to impact all these systems. So it's like we're getting an interesting snapshot at how those systems are going, how much energy they have to do their job. And a lot of times this is what's so interesting and how it correlates with our symptoms. Because here we're not just trying to treat the symptoms, we're actually trying to give the energy to the organs that are in the cells that are actually in there doing the job in those organs so they can do their best job, so we can optimize our health. Also, we have blood, which over here, HTMA is going, hair tissue mineral analysis is HTMA, okay, you guys? Let me just go back and say, hair tissue mineral analysis was created by Dr. Eck between 1970 and 1980, and he did a ton of studying on how minerals were utilized in the body and how that impacted the autonomic nervous system. And so the unique thing about being able to biopsy the hair, we take about, not a big chunk, but a tiny bit from the back, you know how this goes. You're like, yeah. And we need about an inch from the root. And we want to see what that will show us the last 8 to 12 weeks of those patterns in the hair.
And your hair cannot be dyed.
Well, it's ideal if it has been dyed to wash it about 8 times. So you want it to make, if you don't wash it but once a week, say 8 weeks, or you want to get it right before you're going to go dye it again, ideally. Because we don't want to have anything on the hair that's going to impact the mineral picture. So there's a little few certain things we do to metals at that level in the blood, we're practically dead, we're dying. But the hair is going to show us not only it's not always a bad thing that there's heavy metals showing up in the hair. That could mean that the body's actually getting safe enough to start getting rid of them. So sometimes, like with your test, we'll see how our heavy metals are. They could actually increase on the next test, and it could look like, oh, there's a problem. But actually, it means that now your body has the energy on a cellular level to start to get rid of the minerals that have been binding up the sites where those minerals have needed to be, if that makes sense. So we can see patterns, and that's the cool thing. And it's a very attainable test. This test is not thousands of dollars, so you can take it once a year, you can take it every 3 to 6 months, and that way you can start to see a pattern of what's going on. And like what Tina's done, and we'll get into that in just a minute, you can actually also see how the symptoms are changing, and also you can start to see how they change on the test as well. So, here are some minerals that are the link between stress and performance, because I'm trying to tie all this back to being an entrepreneur for you guys here today. And this is a little snapshot of what these look like. So it's interesting because we want them all to be in this normal range, and if they're too high or too low, that's where we start to see patterns, and we can see from the whole test lots of different markers. So we'll talk about that on your stuff. But the zinc to copper ratio is going to impact our mood and our focus. It's also going to impact our hormones. The sodium to potassium ratio is like our stress indicator. The calcium to potassium ratio here is like our metabolic health, how that's going. We can also see your metabolic type, which is really, we'll talk about that in a minute, but how we're using the resources we have, what kind of foods we should be eating based on how fast our metabolism is. And we have the calcium magnesium ratio, which is going to tell us how we're doing with our stress as well. And the iron to copper ratio, which is like our energy and brain power ratio.
Did anybody know that all those things are related to mental health?
I didn't.
I didn't.
But it's just because I've been doing the work.
Yes,
So it's
I love that you're doing so. I'm just telling you guys it's also totally fine that you had no idea, because I was like, what? When I first learned about this, because I'm like, wait, there's something so clear, because all I had heard about was blood tests, and unless you're in a really bad situation, it's not going to show up on a blood test. But to be able to see the patterns and where you fall in that range, so much of the blood tests too look at the health of our country, and so our normal range may not be where you want to be. You may actually want to go to a doctor that's looking at optimal ranges, and that's more the functional side of things. Yeah, so if they're saying, sorry, you're in normal range, and you're like, but I don't feel like that's a great thing, like I've still got all these symptoms, it really can be just because of that. Yeah. So, okay, let's talk about that gut-brain connection. So we're talking a bit more about the axis here. Tina, you mentioned this before. 90% of our serotonin is produced in our gut. And 80% of Americans have leaky guts. So that means what's happening is our food and everything we eat is going out to the body, and the body's saying, intruder, attack yourself, which is why many of us think we have autoimmune issues. It could just be a leaky gut. So that's where we start as well. Now, I do that's why I start to kind of speak to this. I actually also do gut microbiome tests as well. I'm going to a conference this weekend on that. I'm like, who is excited to spend 4 days learning about the gut? Me. I know. I'll call you. I know. I'll call you about all the things I learned. Yeah. But we want to talk about the connection. So I also run DNA tests. Those are my 3 functional labs that I run. And for me, it's fascinating because, and Tina did the DNA test as well. It's fascinating because which systems you're struggling and you need the most support, and which ones are probably thriving. And our DNA, the study of epigenetics, just to tell you guys in case you don't know, is the study of how our genes, our DNA can be activated by lifestyle. So you may have an underlying health issue that doesn't get activated until you go through a stressful life event or whatever, your hormones start to change, whatever's going on, and all of a sudden it's like a snowball and you're like, what has just happened in my life? But it could be that they were there all along. So we can actually do preventative work when we know what your body's blueprint is. But the cool thing about having that information like you have and having what's going on right now on a hair level is that you're able to work with navigating your kind of weaker links, supporting those while also addressing the imbalances that are current. So we kind of talk about how your mineral, your gut, and your mental health are all interconnected. And we come up with protocols on exactly how to support that for each person. And I've already talked about this. So look at that, ahead of myself. All right, so here's the process. Then we're going to get into your report. The process is that we test. We do the HTMA to figure out where you're at, where your weaker links are, what your symptoms are. I probably run the most extensive symptom analysis of any. I've never had anybody run that extensive of a symptom analysis. You should say, are you sure you want to know all this? And then we understand exactly how those mineral patterns are connected to whatever's going on for you in your life right now. And then we talk about some targeted solutions for that, even down to creating a custom supplementation. So you actually are getting only what you need for your body. And then we can do it all again and see how it's going and tweak, because a lot of these patterns that show up, it's not like a doomsday situation. It's what's going on. Your body just like if you hurt your foot, your body is compensating for what it didn't have. But once you give it what it needs, it starts to recalibrate, and then you start to see other kind of weaker links come up. Support those. So you work, it's like layers of an onion. You get down to the core. And a lot of times it can even be, like you were saying, Coco, emotional. So it really does stem to, and a lot of times when people do this work and they don't have movement, it's an emotional piece, which then I come in with the somatic therapy, which is really powerful for everyone to know how to navigate the emotions. That they're not a bad thing. They are there. They're stories to help us understand ourselves more. So that's kind of how we put all this together. All right. So now you guys understand. Do you have any questions on the inner workings before we dive into Tina? Yeah. Okay. So I kind of condensed down without showing you guys her full chart. Some of the initial findings on her first test, and this was done back in June. She had mentioned that she was feeling like a high achieving entrepreneur, but she didn't have the energy. She mentioned, tell them again your symptoms.
Sadness, depression, constantly tired, anger, irritability, mood swings, didn't know if it was my hormones, the whole long list, especially brain fog.
Yeah. So one of the biggest things that we found was copper imbalance. Now, I don't know if you mind me sharing.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is so interesting.
Yeah, and she's had so many tests done, right? But I was like, where is all this copper coming from? Copper registers in the body as like high estrogen. So you start to have symptoms like you have high estrogen, the emotions, roller coaster, all of that. And low zinc as well, because you've got that full imbalance can really contribute to PMS symptoms. But I'm like, where are you getting all this copper? And she's like, well, I've had a copper IUD in since, 2000?
12 years.
Okay, 12 years. And when did all these things start?
A couple of years ago.
Yeah. So that copper level built up and certainly didn't help, right? And she thought, okay, I'm doing a good thing because I'm not putting synthetic.
Yeah. Copper's the non-hormones.
But a lot of women have that, especially after you give birth. For some reason, after women have babies, they just have naturally higher copper levels. And a lot of women have like uncontrolled kind of bleeding after doing the copper IUD. So copper is amazing, but just to be aware that if you have enough of it, it can be a big problem and it can really trigger. There's a whole book about copper. So about that book.
Side note on that, going back to doctors and doing your research, I when going to a gyno from Vanderbilt and the Women's Health Center off Cool Springs, or in Cool Springs, and thought they were really great. And I said, after this, I was like, I need to get my IUD removed. And I said, well, we're thinking about starting a family, but also I have really high levels of copper. And she goes, I've been doing this for 25 years and no one has ever said to me they need their IUD out because they have high levels of copper. And I was like, well, that's interesting. That's a problem. They should be doing this test. And then on top of that, she prescribed me low estrogen, so I still wanted a little something. And the next day I had an appointment with my medication NP, and I immediately told her, and she goes, you can't do that. She goes, the oral contraception completely or almost completely negates the lamotrigine, which was my bipolar depression med. I'm like, wonderful. So she didn't even look at my med list, which I had updated the second I walked in that room. And that could have caused a whole nother problem.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a cycle of doctors that don't pay attention.
And I think when you start talking about your journey of how many medications you're on, I mean, first of all, I'm like, oh, that sounds like so hard, and I feel for you. I also think it says so much about you, and you don't give up. And you, like, if you didn't have the attitude of advocating for yourself and like a learner, a lifelong learner, then imagine how many people out there don't have that gift, especially with your low energy right now. Like, think about still how much you're researching and how passionate you are about all this. Like, I'm like, imagine what you can do when you have your cells getting their needs met. Like, whoa, watch out. Yeah.
It's a symptom of the system and the society that we're living in. And now that we have this knowledge, we do get to advocate for ourselves. But something that helped me immensely was knowing that this is not my fault.
Yes.
That it is this system that we're operating in. It is a broken system, and it's not meant to serve women especially. And so that is power to me, taking the shame and the guilt off of my body and saying, this is the system, and we can do better, and advocating for yourself and having events like this and just talking about it is an amazing first step.
Yeah.
For me, it's just, I'm curious, and I just love learning. So I do all the work.
Yeah.
Anyway, keep going.
But if you didn't, then how many more problems you would have had? That's what I'm saying. Like, if that was you doing that much research, asking that many questions, figuring out areas where they would have actually given you more issues without their attention to detail because of their lack of time, because of how the system is set up.
Right.
Yeah.
One of my clients is polypharmacy, right? And they're a startup, and they struggle to get, hospital systems to adopt their stuff because not everybody has the same body. So we don't all have the receptors to metabolize the drugs that we're given. Plus, most doctors don't consult with all the different things that you're taking. So sometimes you should take something like 4 hours later, or whatever. So it's not just adherence, it's a problem within if you're on multiple medications. But they have a problem getting off the ground because hospital systems are like, that's a lot of work. We also, there's so much money in the pharmaceutical industry, and then it leads to other things like, hospitalization, falls, things like that, complications, because you might just be getting all the negative side effects and none of the good stuff if you can't metabolize the drug.
Yeah.
Or they counteract each other.
And then they give you a different drug to help with that.
Right.
I was taking Adderall and getting really anxious, and they're like, "Okay, we'll give you a pill for the anxiousness." Cool, just
what
add
you're
on.
saying. Yeah, there's nobody asking the question, could this be a side effect of this medication?
Yeah.
And then I find myself, not a doctor, asking people those questions because they don't know to ask those questions. So it's like, go empower yourself and go and ask those questions because, I don't think that doing a Google search is sufficient. I think asking your doctor because that was their job, and if they don't know, then maybe finding a different one because if they're prescribing you something, they should know a bit about it. So some of the other patterns here, the sodium-potassium ratio was super elevated. So we can see the single minerals alone, and the 4 first minerals are going to give us such an indicator. In fact, sodium and potassium are responsible for every single cell job in the body. And if someone has high sodium, they're going to retain water. They're going to feel like they can't make muscles. There's a lot of things that can go into this, but essentially that sodium-potassium level is our indicator on our energy level. So if you are feeling wired but depleted, if you're feeling wired and tired, it's probably that sodium-potassium level. A lot of people are taking electrolytes these days, And for women, it's incredibly important when you're taking an electrolyte that you make sure that the potassium is equal to the sodium in the electrolyte, because so many, like the LMNT has like a tiny bit of potassium, some of them don't have any, or we're just dumping salt into our water, which can be great if you're low in sodium. It's an energizer, it's a conductor of all that energy through the body. But it's so important, especially for women with hormonal things going on, to have enough potassium to balance that off. Otherwise, you get into an area of having too much sodium and that being a problem.
Just heads up, wait 5 minutes.
Okay, so you can see those are some of the ratios, some of the underlying challenges, heavy metals. I'm not a proponent of doing heavy metal detoxes. I think
Copper?
no, copper is actually not considered a heavy metal. So we've got aluminum, cadmium, we've got mercury. These are all things that we can find in our food and our water and our soil. There are a whole list of them that come up, and we can see which ones are high. I recently had a woman that had tried everything, and she was having all kinds of health problems, and we figured out that her heavy metals were super high because she was an artist that used paint. Yeah. So we started getting her heavy metals detoxed, but I do it totally different. Yes, we have heavy metals, but we need to understand that a binder that's not going to carry out the nutrients is important, because a lot of these binders like charcoal, which is great if you're doing, first of all, if you're ever getting mercury removed from your mouth, make sure you go to someone who knows what they're doing, because you want to make sure you do bind that heavy metal if there's any that gets in the body. So you want to make sure that heavy metals don't end up loose in the body. Otherwise, they're going to get redeposited oftentimes. So we need something to bind to the heavy metal and carry it out. But when we start to trigger that heavy metal through taking like charcoal, there's a lot of binders out there. Zeolite is a binder, which is, if it's sourced properly, a really safe one. Silicon dioxide, there's a company that I use that uses little droppers. You could take it every day. And that way you're kind of grabbing that and carrying it out as you're getting exposed, so they're not getting deposited. Because the body's like, I don't know what to do with this, so I'm gonna deposit it. And then it's also blocking your cell receptor sites, so you can't get those minerals to do their proper job. Does that make sense? And then we talked a little bit earlier about the step down pattern. That's a personality pattern that can be linked to the defensiveness, overthinking. There are a lot of different personality patterns, and I'll go to the next slide here so you can kind of see it does impact our nervous system, obviously. So you're in a parasympathetic dominance, which can mean we want to be in a parasympathetic state, but if we're too much in the parasympathetic state, it's like we're lulled out, like we don't actually have the energy to do what we need to do on a cellular level, making up words. So we also can see our metabolic type, and this, I promise, is the last. This is why I was saying these are heavy information slides, but I didn't want the whole talk to be too detailed for you guys, but we can see all kinds of information about how she's oxidizing her everything she's taking in. So this pattern here is going to, so oxidation, metabolic type and oxidation rate are the same thing. So there's actually slow 1, 2, 3, 4, fast 1, 2, 3, 4, and mixed. So there are a lot of metabolic types. Not one is better than the other, but it indicates how the body is utilizing the nutrients that we're taking in. So her particular pattern is slow oxidation, which is indicating burnout. That result there, 5.5 out of 36, those are all the indicators that we tested. And with my, when I created a report, I can plug all that in. And so it gives me your indicators just like that. And then we can see what that's leading to. Those patterns are leading to those problems. We can also see how that burnout can be impacting other parts of the body. And we can also see trauma and how it can show up and our ability to process emotions. So as I was saying before, there's a correlation for sure between the nervous system, storing emotions. There's even in the brain, we start to go around certain brain centers that store those emotions, but the body is storing the emotions too on a cellular level, in our muscles and our fascia. So we can actually start to, just like we want to prompt the body to safely release heavy metals, and process them out. We also want to give the body what it needs to feel safe and to process emotions properly. But if we don't have enough energy to do our daily tasks, then we're not going to have enough energy to process emotions or clear the emotional, because have you guys ever had a massage and you find you're more sore after? So you're releasing so much, or you find you cry during a massage or you cry after. Like, it can definitely be an emotional release because it's stored in the body. But those toxins that are being released and the emotions that are being released, we want to carry them out. And we do that with water, right? Or go take a Epsom salt bath, or make sure you drink enough water. It's to clear, working out too, but that's some other things because we're breaking down the muscle. But yeah, all of that is stored in the body, and these patterns can indicate that emotional volume knob. So how high we feel our emotions, which after I mentioned my concussion, after I had that concussion, my emotional processing center was just completely offline. And so it's interesting how I had never experienced that, because I'm definitely I navigate the world with my feelings kind of a person, and I was like, whoa, how do I do this whole life thing without them? But for you, like, sometimes yours get cranked up, and it's like, it's so loud that you can't function with your own emotions in your own body. You can't see the world clearly outside of yourself, or it can be so low that you don't even have the energy or the resources to process them at all, and you can't feel them at all. So those are
been in both places.
Those are some of the imbalances. Yeah. So key insight down here, your scores really reveal your emotional overwhelm and your chronic exhaustion. Now, how are you feeling now after adding in some support? Do you want to share with them?
She briefly mentioned this earlier, but what I loved about obviously the test, the results, and how she's helping me to improve is the custom vitamin blend. So I had no idea you could do this. So she took my results, saw what I needed, then created a vitamin to help just me based on those things. And so I thought that was awesome. So that's been helping.
Yeah.
I also take some gut.
It's also nice to not have to take like 10 things separately,
Yeah.
and to make sure you get the right ratio of things to offset your ratios. Yeah, the gut, we're addressing the gut because the gut is key, as we talked about, to serotonin levels. Also histamine. Histamine and estrogen really speak to one another, and if our body is, in a stress state, if we are inflammatory, then we start to have, those are high.
Wine that helps the anxiety.
Yes.
I need to take this pill.
I mean, it's such a cycle, right? We wake up, we have coffee so we have enough energy to do what we need to do, then we have wine to like calm us down, and that's what's normal, but it's gonna it's a depressant, so it's going to make us a lower energy the next day. So it's definitely a cycle.
Magnesium has helped me a lot. I also started a pill just for PMS, a supplement.
Oxaloacetate.
That one ingredient. So I thought that was really interesting too.
Yeah, and that's going to help the body with the histamine, and it's incredible what it can do. It also, glutamate is the amino acid that is in gluten. So even if you avoid gluten, many times we're still getting glutamate, which if we in our DNA show we react to that, we can't break it down properly. It can irritate the gut. It can irritate histamine levels. It can cause a reaction that even if we've checked every other box, we're kind of working against ourselves, because like corn has high glutamate. So it's like, I'm gluten-free and I felt great and now I feel worse. So there are some answers for that too. We do some gut protocols around that. I thought I went.
Questions?
Yeah, so here's 3 things I'll leave you with, okay? Basically, increasing your, sorry guys. That's why it didn't go. Increasing your hydration with some minerals. You can add some minerals to your water. I love the Bio brand. I should link that for you guys. Feel free to reach out and I can recommend if you need. But doing an electrolyte with a high potassium in it can be great here. And then mineral-rich foods, focusing on whole food nutrition and getting higher mineral foods. Selenium comes from Brazil nuts, so just doing 3 or 4 a day.
She told me I should have 2 to 4 a day.
Yep.
That's how customized.
Yeah. Oh, that's perfect.
Okay.
That's a great way to support your thyroid.
I'm on a smoothie train now.
Yes.
Oh, just dump all the goodness.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I could put my vitamin in that.
Yes.
Right?
That's why it's powder.
Duh.
That's what people do.
fog.
Okay, perfect. Glad we didn't talk about that. And then working on your nervous system. So feeling safe in your body, and however you can do that, from that, few minutes in the morning or at night